I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to this public meeting of the Peel District School Board. As you are able, please stand with us for the land acknowledgement and our national anthem.
We would like to acknowledge
that we are here today
on the traditional territory
of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation.
Nous tenons à reconnaître que
nous sommes sur le territoire traditionnel
des Mississaugas de la
Première Nation de Credit.
Thank you. Item one is, part of item one is our approval of our agenda. And before we get to that, we have regrets from Trustee Andrews and Student Trustee Oris Nadenova. With respect to approval of the agenda, we have a number of amendments. The first one is item 9.5, which is a notice of rescission, a part of resolution number 1950 regarding the naming of a new school. Before we approve the agenda, administration has asked if we would waive the notice period so we can deal with the updated recommendation tonight. This is a time-sensitive item, and that fact allows us to waive the notice. To waive notice, the board requires a 2/3 vote in favor. And if we approve the waiving of the notice, then when we get to item 9.5, we will be dealing with the actual rescission recommendation. Trustee Sohi, will you move the notice be waived? Yes. Thank you. Trustee Davies, will you second this?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? A 2/3 vote is required to waive the notice. All in favor of waiving this notice? That is approved and carried. Thank you. Trustees have a blue sheet in front of them, and before I get to that, apologies to everyone in the gallery today who's attending. We're sorry that we were so late coming back out of a previous meeting. As you might imagine, there's a lot going on right now for school boards to deal with, and almost every meeting is going just a little bit further longer than we might like, so we apologize for making you wait. Thank you for your patience. On the blue sheet, trustees, 6.1, these are additions to the agenda. 6.1, subsection A is retirements addendum. 9.7 is the school naming. 12.3 is OPSPA Connects from April 8th, 2019. 13.6 is a copy of a letter to the Minister of Education from the Limestone District School Board. 13.7 is a copy of a letter to the Minister of Education from the Peel District School Board. And 13.8 is a copy of a letter to the Minister of Education from Halton District School Board. Trustee Benjamin, will you move the agenda as amended? And Trustee Crocker, will you second this? Thank you. A 2/3 majority vote is required for an amended agenda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Item 1.1 is a special presentation by the co-chairs of the 2018 United Way campaign. I'd like to welcome Superintendent Jamie Robertson, and we appreciate your introduction of our guests for this special presentation. Well, I can help you with this. If you activate, did you activate the button? See the button? No, it'll turn red when it's on. Okay. Guys, can we turn on the podium? You're on now.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So it's my pleasure tonight to welcome guests from United Way Greater Toronto Area who are our partners in the community. They provide our community, the families that we serve, with so many important services that are very much aligned with our goals as a school board. And I also welcome and would like to introduce the chair and co-chair for our own campaign here at Peel District School Board, who have put in, I would say, many hours in raising the campaign and providing leadership for this year's campaign, and I think a very successful campaign. So without further ado, I'm going to ask our chair of this year's campaign, Eileen Padua, principal, to first step to the podium. And then I know that Alvin Au, principal, will also be joining us, and he is the vice chair of this year's campaign. So Eileen.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Superintendent Robertson. So good evening once again, Director Joshua, Chair Cameron, Board of Trustees, Superintendents of Education, and ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of this year's United Way Campaign Committee, I want to thank you for allowing us to share some of the highlights and closing comments about this year's campaign. As the chair of the 2018-2019 United Way campaign, it is a pleasure to be here tonight to celebrate the work of the Peel District School Board, together comprised of 15,000 employees and 100,000 students. It is the work of the school's work sites with staff and students who have made this year's campaign a success. This year's theme, Inspire Possibility, ignited the enthusiasm in all of us as we raised awareness of the needs within Peel that includes our own families and students, and the ability to raise an outstanding amount of funds. We set our goal for $300,000, and we raised an impressive $124,953. We know that this will go a long way to help the United Way reach and support our Peel families. Our campaign saw many schools and work sites raise incredible amounts, and we saw funds come in through activities such as silent auctions and staff fundraising events. As chair, it has been my joy twice to be part of such a strong partnership that is shared between the Peel District School Board and the United Way Greater Toronto. It is indeed marked by a rich tradition of community giving, and it is our hope that our relationship will continue to flourish for years to come. The campaign, Inspire Possibility, was launched at the September board meeting by sharing the following saying, "It does take a village to raise a child." So this sums up the need for our partnership with the United Way Greater Toronto and the reason for our support. Without our community partnerships and connections with 53 agencies who delivered 88 programs in the region of Peel, we could not provide our students and families with the appropriate and much-needed supports they deserve. On a personal note, I wish to thank all the members of the United Way Committee who put in countless hours throughout this year's campaign to ensure our actions were both intentional and successful. So on behalf of the committee, first of all, I would like to thank Superintendent Robertson for his commitment to the United Way campaign, serving as our senior admin liaison. He has liaised and championed our cause extensively during this campaign. And Superintendent Robertson embraced the spirit of the campaign immediately from its beginnings last August and has worked diligently this year alongside everyone, the senior admin team, to engage all board employees through Twitter campaigns, offering their services to winners of employee payroll deduction draws, and through system-wide communications to encourage an increase in employee payroll deductions. The 2018-2019 senior administrative team has walked the talk, working to make our community aware of the home advantage that United Way programming provides for our students and families within their own neighborhood and community. Secondly, please join me in thanking Director Joshua for his leadership and his passion, the renewed lens he has brought to inspire this year's campaign. I know that the United Way campaign has always been close to our hearts here in Peel, and you have certainly embraced the campaign with commitment, and for this, we are grateful. Once again, we'd also like to thank our partners in the communication department, Ryan Rays, Ashley Bigda, and also Audrey, who's in the audience this evening. We thank you for your ongoing support of the campaign's communication needs. As well, a huge thank you to Jennifer Pava, who managed, I don't know how she did it, but she tracked all the incoming funds and related communications with schools and sites. And thank you also to Leah Jenkins for her administrative support throughout the entirety of the campaign, organizing the contact list for campaign leads at both elementary and secondary schools across the system, preparing all the certificates, and ensuring that information was gathered and shared. I also want to say an overwhelming thank you to Alvin Au, who served as vice chair this year, for organizing and recognizing tonight the award-winning schools and sites for their dedication to the campaign. And finally, to Raj Shandegra, our United Way Greater Toronto liaison. Your insight and wisdom has been invaluable to us. Your commitment to the United Way is inspiring, and we could not have embarked upon this campaign journey without you. And finally, thank you to the Board of Trustees, whose unwavering support has been the inner fountain of this worthy project for many years. And it is truly appreciated as we look towards the fall campaign. It's just a few months away. We have a strong campaign committee already in place to move the campaign forward during the 2019-2020 year, under the leadership of Alvin, who will take on the upcoming role of committee chair. And I am confident we will continue to strive to meet our goals. So at this time, it gives me great pleasure to invite Alvin to present this year's awards. Ladies and gentlemen, Alvin.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you. We have so many reasons to celebrate and recognize the outstanding campaign, contributions, and activities over schools and work sites during the 2018-2019 United Way campaign. First, the Harold M. Brathwaite Recognition Award is given to the school that has best exemplified the true spirit of United Way for their commitment to inspire possibility in their community. We would like to present this year's award to Eagle Plains Public School. You have demonstrated creativity, originality, and fun through the 14 tweets, 29 retweets, and 84 likes on Twitter. You have certainly captured the spirit of United Way's commitment to building stronger communities through the inclusion of all stakeholders in your campaign. As accepting this award is Principal Jay Suganen. We would like to invite Trustee Sohi and Superintendent Noble to join. Next, we have the United Way Special Recognition Awards for Achievement for Staff Contribution. The top two elementary schools are Fern Forest Public School and Balmoral Drive Senior Public School. Accepting the award for Fern Forest is Principal Gurmeet Gill, Vice Principal Joan Lavelle, and United Way Representatives Tracy Sutherland and Agatha Fillion. We would like to invite Trustee Sohi and Superintendent Logue to join. Accepting the award for Balmoral Drive Senior Public School is Principal Raza Hussain and United Way Representative Henry Song. We would like to invite Trustees McDonald and Andrews, as well as Superintendent Cook, to join. The top secondary school is Glen Forest, and accepting the award is Vice Principal Jillian Kakanich. We would like to invite Vice Chair Lawton, Trustee Benjamin, and Superintendent De Silva to join. Thank you, sir. The top contributions at a worksite is the Central Board Office. Accepting the award is Chair Cameron and Director Joshua. On behalf of the United Way Committee, thank you to the school communities and work sites for continuing to support United Way. Our collective efforts and contributions will have a long-lasting and positive impact on the school community agencies this year and the years ahead. We look forward to this continued support and generosity in the 2019 and 2020 campaign. At this time, I would like to invite Daniele Zanotti, Chief Executive Officer, and Nation Chong, Director of Youth Initiatives, to speak on behalf of United Way Greater Toronto. Please join me in welcoming Daniele and Nation.
Chair, Board of Trustees, Director, staff, and guests. The first person I met on the 12th floor of the Mississauga Civic Center was Mo, graduating from United Way-funded IT NPower program. Born in Mimico to a single mom, in and out of social housing. Moved to Malton at 15, in and out of high school, on social assistance, graduates thanks to the Peel District School Board. And then Mo fell into the arms of community. A mental health program, employment support, anything to help him his mom and 2 brothers make ends meet. He found a flyer to join a United Way IT workforce program here in Mississauga. Started post-secondary courses and an internship. Mo graduated to cheers from friends. Poverty, the struggle to meet basic needs, access to a helping hand close to home, the chance at a better life, these are all issues that know no boundaries, know no us or them. And you know that well, Peel District School Board. Year after year, you show that you care. And thanks to your employees and students, in 2018, you raised over $120,000 for this invisible United Way network of agencies, a lifeline for so many of your students and families before and after the bell rings. A special thanks to Director of Education Peter Joshua, Superintendent Jamie Robertson, Eileen, Alvin, all the committee members, to all the schools and students, to the union brothers and sisters who contribute time, talent, and treasure, to each of you as Board of Trustees and your staff executive team, because you know that our United Way social infrastructure, from early years programs to food security to mental health support, is inextricably linked to your Peel District School Board classrooms and students. And there can be no boundaries on our care. That is why when we began discussions about a year ago with many of you and others across the region to speak of then United Way Peel region merging with then United Way Toronto and York region, so many of you championed that integration if you said we could raise more and invest more locally. And each of you said it uniquely, but all of you agreed, regional scale only if fiercely local. And now, 1 year after our merger, we are United Way Greater Toronto, working with communities in Peel, Toronto, and York region, because our recent opportunity equation in the GTA report validates what you already know. Income inequality is spreading. Middle-income neighborhoods across the GTA are being replaced by either low or a high-income neighborhoods. And while the City of Toronto remains the income inequality capital of Canada, neighborhood polarization is spreading into the 905. And in Peel, most dramatically and drastically, in 1980, only 2% of neighborhoods were low income. Today, half. A full 52% of neighborhoods in Peel are low income. That is why, together, our regional United Way is better positioned to fight poverty for your students and families. Our first joint campaign as United Way Greater Toronto, led by over 60 volunteers, including reps from the region of Peel, Big Brothers Big Sisters Peel region, GE, General Mills, PepsiCo, raised a record $110.3 million, the largest United Way in the world. After decades, we have welcomed new Peel workplaces to join us, including Microsoft, as well as building deeper partnerships in Peel on issues like food security, with an announcement of a multi-year gift coming shortly. And just this morning, we announced a record $94 million investment in 250 agencies across Peel, Toronto, and York region. Still next to government, the largest funder of social services. In Peel alone, we are investing over $7 million in 53 agencies, delivering over 80 programs. In addition, $120,000 in 3 neighborhoods Sheridan in Mississauga, Ardglen in Brampton, and Bolton in Caledon. We are working with the region of Peel to identify neighborhoods for more focused investments. We have seeded almost $50,000 in new employment social enterprises and expansion of an existing local social enterprise right here in Peel. We are investing an additional $330,000 in programs targeting youth facing multiple barriers, with a new IT cohort and 2 mentoring programs. Building on our community benefits work in Toronto, where today over 200 community employees are working in full-time jobs at the Eglinton Crosstown, we have also invested $100,000 in a Peel community benefits network, working together on a Made in Peel solution for the Hurontario LRT. We have continued to partner with you on local tables, the Peel Poverty Reduction Strategy, the Peel Alliance to End Homelessness, the Peel Newcomer Strategy. And with you, Peel District School Board, we rise. Supported by United Way's Black Community Advisory Council as part of your parent advisory, together, the Black Youth Student Success Initiative is now fully staffed and implemented in 9 participating schools across this region, well on its way to achieve the target of 25 students enrolled by the end of the month. All of this with one stubborn resolve: to raise more, invest more, and help more people right here in neighborhoods across Peel. Last year, thanks to you, a United Way helping hand to over 200,000 residents like Mo, one of your very own students. Mo, born in Mimico, living in Malton, and today working full-time at CompuGen in Richmond Hill. No boundaries on our deep social pressures, just local solutions. Thank you for being part of our work with and in community, and for helping us leverage our regional scale to be fiercely local in Peel. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wonderful report, very in-depth, and helps bring clarity for us as a Board of Trustees as to the work the UWGT is now doing. If I'd counted the number of times I heard between all the speakers the word partner or partnerships, and I wish I had kept track, but I might be in double figures. And would you, when you talk like that, you remind us that together we are better. Dr. Viktor Frankl wrote an amazing book called Man's Search for Meaning. And in that book, he says, when we give to others, we feel better about ourselves. For all of the work you do, for all of the work your staff did, for all the work our staff did, and the partnership we had, we hope that everyone feels very good about themselves for the contribution. Thank you again for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And thank you, Alvin and Eileen, for your assistance tonight as well. So moving to item 2, which is declaration of conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict to declare? Seeing none, moving to section 3, which is the minutes. Section 3.2 is the minutes of the audit committee meeting on March 21st. 3.3 is the minutes of the Supplementary Human Resources and Negotiations Advisory Committee open session meeting on March 25th. 3.4 is the minutes of the regular meeting of the board on March 25th. Trustee Marchant, will you put them on the floor? Thank you. Trustee Green, will you second them? Thank you. They are here for our receipt and approval. Are there any questions or comments regarding any of those 3 sets of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Are there any written questions from trustees? Seeing none, Moving to item 5, are there any notices of motion or petitions from trustees? Trustee DeCroo.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few. Bear with me. So the first one is a notice of motion, and it reads, "Be it resolved that the Peel District School Board recommend that the book titled To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, published in 1960, no longer be used as required teaching material or for the purpose of assessments."
Okay, so that's a notice.
Yep.
Thank you for the notice. Will you leave a copy of
I will.
your notice with
Will do.
Executive Assistant Bapti, please?
Sure. And for the other two, I would like the board's opinion or,
You're asking for us to
Feedback.
waive motion?
well, I'm asking
waive
for,
notice?
to waive the notice, but I'm also wondering, so these are, I'm asking to write a letter or 2 letters about the changes to OSAP and the changes to the Ontario Autism Program. So I'm wondering if the board would want to do one combined letter or 2 separate letters. They're different ministers, but it's the same government, and I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
It's same government, but it is 2 different ministries and 2
Yeah.
different ministers. I think but we could take this as one item and ask the board now if they would be willing to waive notice first.
Yeah.
On the writing of the 2 letters to do 2 different ministers.
Should I read the notices?
Let's, yes, go ahead, read.
Okay. So be it resolved that the Peel District School Board writes a letter to the Ministers of Training, colleges and universities, and the Premier of Ontario regarding, to express concern regarding the changes to OSAP. And be it resolved that the Peel District School Board writes a letter to the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, and the Premier of Ontario to express concern regarding the changes to the Ontario Autism Program.
Okay, 1 motion, 2 letters, 2 different ministries, 2 different questions. What we need first is to provide an answer to the question as to whether we as a board would waive the notice period, and we would need 2/3, just like we talked about previously at the beginning. So this is a question I'm going to pose for a vote. Will the board waive the notice for this motion so we can hear it tonight? And the reason for that is because, the reason we want the waive is
The budget's coming out in a couple of days.
because the budget is being produced in 4 days. All those in favor of waiving notice so this can be dealt with tonight, raise your hand. I can't hear you. So we have, Trustee, you have a question?
No, I don't have no problem waiving the notice. It's just the fact is that the budget is coming out in 4 days. The budget is already set. As my colleagues would know, last night we had a session with these people. So I just want to ask my colleague what the intention of the letter and what, at this point.
Point of order, Chair.
Go ahead.
I think the motion needs to be on the floor for Mr. Green to be asking these questions, so till we get it on the floor for him to ask the points. I share his concerns, but till the motion's on the floor, we shouldn't be having this discussion.
Okay, so that was my misstep. You were right about that.
Okay, I can support that. That's fine.
So let's put it on the floor first. Trustee DeCroo is moving it, presumably. Do you have a seconder? Trustee K. McDonald is seconding it. Now, are there any questions or concerns?
No, we have to first
We have to waive
waive the motion, the notice.
Right.
And
right.
we
Are
need
there,
2/3 to do that.
okay. Now I'm going to call the vote on the waiving of the
We have to
motion.
vote.
All those in favor of waiving the motion, put your hand up. Waiving the motion. Waiving the notice, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Waiving the notice, which we need 2/3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8. That carries. Okay, but it carries. So the waiving of the notice has been carried.
But I don't think we debate it now. I think it goes to the bottom.
Okay,
Okay. Right? So now it's going to be on section, I guess, 9.7. Right? 9.8.
it would be 9.8.
Yeah. I'll be ready by then.
Okay, that will move to 9.8. Okay. So you're going to ensure you get the copy of the notice, first one, over to the executive assistant. Okay, are there any other notices of motion or petitions from trustees? Okay, moving to item 6, which is a special section for receipt. 6.1 is a list of retirements. 6.1 subsection A is retirement addendum. 6.2 is recognition of Administrative Professionals Day. Trustee Davis, will you move this item? Trustee K. McDonald, will you second it? Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from trustees on any of these 3 items? Trustee Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the addendum and the retirement, which is 6.1, I'd just like to make a few comments. And our Associate Director, Downing, and just want to really echo my thoughts around your retirement. I remember I was on the panel when you came through for superintendent, and you, in your interview, you delivered in such a way and articulate your answers that you gave at that interview that, even before the panel decided yes or no, in my mind, I said, this is someone that I want to be leading principals and supervising principals in school because of your knowledge and your passion for student came out in that interview because that was the first time I had the opportunity to meet you. Over the years, I grow more to know you, and sometimes I push you hard, and you, even when I get upset, you never get upset. You keep your cool, and you just have a way of bringing me back down to earth in those situations. And you always, one thing that I can tell you that I do appreciate about you, when you make a promise, you keep your promise. You tell me I'm gonna get back to you, you get back to me. And sometimes it doesn't matter what time of the evening it is, if it's even late evening on weekends, you reach out and get back to me to make sure that the question that I'm asking that I can satisfy answer to my parents and to the student that I represent in Brampton. And I can tell you truly, saw your resignation, your retirement letter this afternoon. I can truly say to myself and to everyone who have known you that this board is losing a champion for education, a champion for our kids, and a champion in the way you lead. And oftentimes we look and we said, everyone is replaceable. But in terms of what you bring to the table, we will never able to replace that. Every decision, if I could vote and said no, I'm not going to approve this retirement, trust me, I would do it in a heartbeat. But I want to tell you, when the time comes, you will be missed by this trustee for your kindness, your honesty, and your support that you have given to me over the last couple of years, and even more so the last 2 years as associate director. I want to thank you for your commitment, your dedication, and thank you for supporting our kids. I will truly, truly miss you. And whatever you do in life, I know you're not gonna go off and just ride off in the sunset. I know you're gonna be doing something that support kids, our community. So I wanna wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Green. Trustee Kay McDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Well, Wendy, I don't know. They say no one is indispensable, but this really hurts. I'm still in shock. I just wanted to speak to two names on this list. First, I'll speak to Jan Crowfoot. I know hers is Jan. It says Janice here. But Jan was the first principal that reached out to me when I was a new trustee. And I remember participating in Ridgeview's November, Trustee Crocker, what's the name of that celebration in November again? Remembrance Day. Remembrance Day, thank you. I'm exhausted. Wendy, see the effect you had on me? So I remember her reaching out to me for the Remembrance Day assembly. And there started our relationship. I wasn't even sworn in yet, but she wanted to include me and introduce me to the community. And she is a fantastic, fantastic, outstanding principal. And Churchville and Peel is going to be missing a true champion for all kids. And Wendy, where do I start with you? You're actually the second person in this whole board to speak to me on when I first came to the CPO. And I remember that big booming smile you had, you know, and then we just connected ever since. And you're always warm and kind. I felt so safe when you were our sergeant in arms. I knew that nobody could mess with those heels. You know, you are truly a class act, Wendy, and Pete is better because of you. You're kind, you're humble, you have a way of making anything seem okay and just that much easier to swallow and to take, and I thank you for that. That's a skill set that I always told you I've so admired in you. I remember as a new trustee, I'd always come and say, Wendy, did I do okay? Did I say this right? Always I use you as my little gauge. And, you know, I really appreciate your command of words and your respect when you speak to people. Wendy, I still have so much to learn from you. So I'm really going to miss you. You are grace personified. You are humility exemplified. I had great plans for you, Wendy, for us. You'll be certainly missed at this board. You're leaving a big hole, an enormous crater that I don't know how or who is going to fill. And it would be remiss of me by not ending with our famous Jamaican saying that I always say about you, Wendy. You're little but you're tallow. You're little but you're mighty. And I wish you the best and God's richest blessing in whatever your endeavors are. I know you're going to make your grandchild is going to be so blessed to have you as a grandma. So all the best, and I'm being very sincere. And I miss you, I love you, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee B. McDonald.
Thank you. I'll try not to echo the same sentiments from my colleagues. Wendy, you know, we became a team when you became my superintendent, and I cannot believe how you came into that position and worked with the schools, worked with the staff, and your caring heart and focus on kids was amazing. Your calm and great demeanor of how to calm people down, even myself, especially through some trying times of school closures and other things that we had to deal with. I cannot tell you how impressed I was that you ran that organization of family schools so incredibly well. And then I cannot tell you how proud I was to be part of making you an associate director, because I knew our board was going to be led in a great direction with your leadership. and you took over and you passed your great skills on to this great superintendent sitting in front of us. And I cannot thank you enough for that. And I will miss you. I think our board will miss you. But I understand, you know, life must move on, and you will move on to great adventures in the future. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee DeCroop.
Thank you. What my colleague, Trustee Kay McDonald, didn't mention was that we were trying to convince Associate Director Dowling to stay. We were practically begging for her to not put forward her resignation just a few hours ago. But I'm obviously very sad that you're going to be leaving us. But I want to thank you for a brilliant career and for your commitment to public education. And I hope that you know that you have changed lives, because I think every single person in this room who knows you, knows that you have. And I wish you all the best, and don't be a stranger.
Thank you. Trustee Crocker.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to begin by acknowledging two other names on the retirement list. Mike Bettiall, president of OSSTF, is actually here tonight. There he is. And he's retiring effective June 30th, and I can tell you he's had a very tough job. And he's worked on behalf of all teachers and on behalf of public education for a long time. We will miss you, Mike. I noticed Tim Cunningham's name here as well. Tim's not here, I don't think, but Matt Jackson's here, and perhaps you'll pass our greetings along to him, Matt. Tim is a former president of the Elementary Teachers Federation local, and also did a sterling job on behalf of teachers and children in Peel. I'd like to add, Chair, if I may, that trustees are kind of like the complaints department. We get blamed for all kinds of stuff, late buses, curriculum, even the weather. But I know that one thing we received only praise for was when we as a board decided to make Wendy Dowling Associate Director. Nobody said anything to me about that other than, boy, did you guys ever get it right this time. Wendy, you've been a friend to all. I know that your dedication to public education will continue. I'd like to thank you for your positive example and for your ongoing role as a pillar of the Streetsville area in Ward 11. And thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. I have two things I'd like to add. One is to bring to everyone's attention the Administrative Professionals Day recognition. It is on April 24th. And the suggestion is for all of us to take a moment to show our appreciation and say a big thank you to administrative staff who play an essential role in making a positive difference in the lives of students, their families, and the community. And that's, I think that's important for all of us to do. And I'm glad that it's in this agenda package because our next meeting is April 23rd. That would only give us one day to sort of make this announcement and share the goodwill and the good news there. I do want to as well share a farewell comment to Associate Director Dowling. When I heard the news, I sent her an email, and it just said in the subject area a little bit what Trustee B. McDonald said, Wendy, I will miss you. And I'm not sure there's a whole lot more from a sentiment standpoint that I can share. I know all of the accolades that you deserve, but it is true at a personal and interpersonal level when we work with people who are so supportive and so helpful. And some of these definitions I've heard of Wendy: calm, balanced, and able to hold the courageous conversations. And you've been doing that for 32 years, since September 1st, 1987, when you became a supply teacher with this board. And right from 1987 through to 89, becoming a permanent teacher, 93, a full-time grade 4 teacher, 97, a resource teacher position, And then in 2000, you transferred from resource teacher to library position in a school. In 2003, you were promoted to acting vice principal, and shortly after 2003, you were moved from acting vice principal to vice principal. In 2008, you moved from principal to school support officer and staff development in school support services department. And on May 26, 2009, you made the big leap to superintendent with the Peel District School Board. In 2010, you were appointed as superintendent of education in an elementary set of schools, and in August 1st, 2012, you were the superintendent for Lorne Park, Clarkson, Arundel families of schools. And in August 1st, 2017, you were appointed to Associate Director, School Support Services. I'd like to say that that's a wonderful career, Wendy, and you have done a lot of work. You have made a difference in a lot of lives, and for that, I want to say thank you, and best wishes to you and your family moving forward. Go ahead, Trustee McDonald.
To you. I didn't realize that the Administration Professionals Day was moved, and I wanted to speak to it.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank
Sure,
you for
absolutely.
your indulgence. As a daughter of an administrator, I know firsthand the dedication that it takes to be an excellent administrator. From the illustrious leader of the PPVPA, leader Bill McGregor, who is here, and his team, and to all the administrators of the Peel District School Board, I'd like to say a big thank you for doing what is often a thankless job, especially in these times of uncertainty. It will be you that will be holding the proverbial bag, standing in the fort. I'd like to thank you for riding a school bus so that kids don't end up in other cities, for doing lice checks, for holding hands of staff, students, family when the unthinkable happens, for sharing your lunches, for coming early and leaving late, from being away from your family, for believing in our kids, for believing in our students, for your laughter, for your resilience, and for inspiring success, confidence, and hope in all students. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So this item these three items in item 6 have been moved and seconded. So all in favor? That item is carried. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions. Moving to item 9, which is new business, we need to take these items individually. 9.3 are the recommendations of the Physical Planning and Building Committee meeting on April 2nd. There are no recommendations for the board. They are information items here for our receipt. Trustee B. McDonald, will you move these minutes? Thank you. Trustee Green, will you second them? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.4 are appointments to the Special Education Advisory Committee. Vice Chair Lawton, will you move these recommendations? Thank you. And Trustee Marchant, second them. Thanks. They are recommendations, and they're here for our approval. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.5 is a notice of rescission of part of resolution number 19-50 regarding naming of a school. Recall, trustees, prior to approving tonight's agenda, we voted to waive the notice so we can now deal with the rescission. We are now looking at the recommendation to rescind part of resolution number 1950, which reads that the new school, currently known as Vales of Humber No. 1 Public School, to be located at 100 Martin Burn Drive in Brampton, be named Bookham Singh Public School. We need to move and second this rescission. Trustee K. McDonald, will you put the rescission on the floor? Thank you. And Trustee Davies, will you second this? This is a Brampton school, so I was looking for Brampton trustees. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Trustee B. McDonald.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment behind making the change, and I appreciate where it comes from. But if someone doesn't know the background and read this private and then in the same name public, I think it kind of might be confusing. The reason I became a trustee is I've traveled the world and lived in other places where private education was higher than, you know, public education, and people, you know, who had money had better educational opportunities. While I came back here and said, I think public education is important. So I'm torn to have the words private and public in the same name. And so I really can't support that, I'm sorry.
So at this point, what you're not supporting is the rescission, right? We're not at the, 9.7 will be the actual naming, a new name being put on the floor.
Right, so I can't vote for the rescission.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from trustees? So this item has been moved and seconded. A rescission within 12 months of a motion being approved, which this one is, requires a 2/3 majority vote to carry. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? This vote carries. (9.6) is a notice of motion from Trustee DeCroo regarding recognition of Heritage Months. Trustee DeCroo, would you like to introduce your motion? And do you have a seconder? Seconder is Trustee Sohi. Okay. And go ahead. Oops, I'm sorry. Easier to hear you this way.
Thank you very much, Chair Cameron. I just want to start off by saying I'd like to request a recorded vote. Just as a background, I ask for a recorded vote for pretty much every motion, just for the sake of transparency and my belief in democracy and all that. So it's nothing specific about this motion. It's a thing that I do all the time. So I'm just going to read it. Whereas the Government of Ontario already recognizes and celebrates Islamic Heritage Month, Hindu Heritage Month, Sikh Heritage Month, and Jewish Heritage Month, whereas there is a growing sense of intolerance in our community and around the world, and we have a crucial role and responsibility in the education sector to help create a world that is balanced and fair. And I just realized that there is a typo in there, and whereas our board is committed to equity and inclusion, and this would help foster a climate of understanding within our schools and help reflect student identity, be it resolved that the Peel District School Board begin to recognize and celebrate Islamic Heritage Month in October, Hindu Heritage Month in November, Sikh Heritage Month in April, and Jewish Heritage Month in May. Be it further resolved that this recognition be reflected in the curriculum and include meaningful learning for students. You may be wondering why we should do this and why Heritage Months matter and why we should get involved in these celebrations. Most importantly, this is about student identity. This will help increase the sense of student belonging. It will help students learn about one another and coexisting in our society. It will help drive out cultural and religious intolerance and ignorance and help us all learn more about our neighbors, our colleagues, and our friends. There's a lot going on in our world today. Hate-motivated attacks and assaults are on the rise. Around the world, we have seen terrible acts as the one that recently took place in New Zealand. But the reality is, hate crimes happen here in Peel too. Most of them don't get reported about in the media, and many don't even get reported at all. According to Peel Police, a report of 2017 about, which I have, by the way, sorry, I'm just gonna look at it. I'm actually going to pass it down if you'd like to look at it yourself. It's a 11-page report, so just pass this down. I should have made copies, I apologize. So according to the Peel Police 2017 Hate-Motivated Crimes Report, there was a spike in hate-motivated crimes between 2016 and 2017 right here in Peel Region. According to the same report by Peel Regional Police, religious minorities are the group that is most frequently targeted, with Muslims being the highest targeted group in 2017. This is happening right here in Peel. Our role is to educate, to teach, to provide opportunities for learning. We're not only in the business of teaching math, science, and literacy. Our responsibility as a Board of Education extends way beyond that. Our responsibility is to strive towards building a better world, a more inclusive world, where people feel that they belong. Our board has been steadfast in our commitment to equity and inclusion. So I'm urging my colleagues tonight to support this motion so that we can continue working towards building an inclusive and equitable society. And I'm happy to address concerns as they come up.
Okay, thank you. So we have the motion before us. This is where debate can take place, and if you would like to comment, you'd like to question, please activate your microphone, and we will hear your feedback. Trustee Benjamin, could you move your microphone down towards you so we'll all hear? Thank you.
Is it okay? Through you, Chair, I'd like to say something, and I'm just passing some documents for every trustee. So as something is coming this side, I'm going to pass something that side too. Okay, so 2 for you. And through you, Chair, I have been trying to understand the rationale behind picking these specific religions and focusing on their heritage. I did a little research on the heritage months recognized by the provincial and federal governments. If the idea is to follow the lead of the provincial government, then Ontario also recognizes Tamil heritage, Hispanic heritage, and a whole host of other cultures, and this motion does not reflect that. If the idea is to represent the changing demographics of our student and staff populations, and indeed the changing demographics of this country, then again this motion falls short. Our focus as educators should be on developing future citizens in whom the culture of equity and inclusion, empathy and compassion should be second nature. Our focus should be on developing future citizens who look at another person, whatever.
Just 1 second. Apparently what has come around is an amendment. That's what you're suggesting, right?
Bringing it?
That you would like us to consider, an amendment.
Okay, so I have to say it? Okay, so.
Just hang on a sec.
Being a new trustee, I'm still learning the process.
I understand. I'm concerned that we are going to be offending people if we continue. Tamil and Hispanic are not religions.
Okay, but
These.
Point of order, please.
Yes, sir.
Point of order. Please put my mic so I can speak.
It's on.
Okay. If a motion is on the table and a trustee is requesting an amendment, the trustee needs to state clearly that I'm requesting an amendment, and it has to ask for a friendly amendment. Then the trustee who put the motion on the table then may agree or disagree. Then the board needs to make a decision on that amendment. So we going back and forth here is not going to get us anywhere. Let's follow the order and procedure that we always follow as a board.
Okay, so
thank you.
This is not a friendly amendment, that, as I understand from our board staff. So let's.
I'd like to help my colleague understand what we're talking about. So there's a distinct difference between cultures, and I'm sure you're aware, and religions. And this motion specifically mentions religious groups and religious celebrations that are, I do recognize that there are many, many cultures and many other heritage months that are recognized by the province of Ontario, and absolutely we should probably recognize them all. It's just this is not the intent of this particular motion. I'm happy to support another motion if you'd like to bring that forward to recognize them all as well. But I just would like to make sure that we are very understanding of the distinct distinction between cultural backgrounds and religious groups, just so we do not offend anyone.
Okay, so the way we need to handle the amendment is the amendment is in front of us, and we need to hear the amendment from Trustee Benjamin. Then we will vote on the amendment as to whether that will then be attached to the original or not. And we know that in order for it to be considered, you would need a seconder. Do you have a seconder for your amendment?
As I said, we need to be, through your trustee, regarding these motions, I have absolutely no idea how it goes because it didn't come up in the orientation sessions. Anyway, I'm proposing that we, an amendment to the motion put forward by Trustee Duck Group, and it will be seconded by Trustee McDonald.
Okay, Trustee K. McDonald is a seconder. And could you speak to your amendment, please?
Can I now
Yes, and then
proceed?
we will
So-
decide on, we will vote on your amendment.
Okay,
Go
so do I have to read the amendment first and then go on?
Go
to
ahead,
mine?
yes,
Okay.
read it, please.
I propose that we adopt all the heritage months currently recognized by the Ontario government to celebrate our diversity and commemorate our history. I would also propose adding National Indigenous History Month, which is recognized by the Government of Canada in June. Thank you. That's my.
Okay, now, if you are done, we will open debate on the amendment. So would you like to speak to the amendment? Trustees, please activate your button. Okay, there are, oh, yes. Trustee Benjamin?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Can I go? Ahead?
No, Mr. Chair. You asked, and I have my button on to speak. The trustee who put the amendment on the floor closed the debate on the amendment. So trustees who want to speak to the amendment must speak before she can speak again.
Right. I called for trustees to speak, and at that
Mike
point,
is
I didn't have any. So now you have the floor. Go ahead, Trustee Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm just a little bit confused right now because paper just dropped in front of me with a lot of information here. In terms of the amendment and everything like that. For me to make a decision here, I need time to think. I need time to go through these. I need time to go through what they mean and what they would mean to our student. I have no problem supporting the motion, what was put on the floor originally, but now that there's amendment, if the amendment is to pass, I can't just, I respect my colleagues for bringing these forward, but I need information. I need information so I can do my reading, my research. And so, because I got 2 sheets of paper filled with information here. And I'm not gonna make a decision based on what was dropped in front of me. I need time to think. So if I can support the amendment just like this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Marchant.
Yeah, at the risk of repeating Trustee Green, we have staffing groups specific to various concerns, both culturally and religious. I worry by adopting this amendment, we take the point out of it. We are here to reflect the community and the people out there and our staff and our employees and what they bring to us. By adopting all this, we water down the concerns of what people have brought to us and start inflicting our stuff on them. So I don't think I can support the motion, the amendment to the motion as it's written here either. Not understanding the purpose to it or what this would in fact look like in a school if we're suddenly celebrating Ontario Flag Day month. It just doesn't, it doesn't matter. Sorry, not that it doesn't matter, it doesn't create something for me that I can understand and vote for tonight anyways. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other trustees before we call on Trustee Benjamin to close debate on her amendment? Yes, Trustee Sohi.
Through you, Chair, I think we need more time on this because there's a lot of information looking at this. The initial motion that was out there, as Trustee Decru said, that it was about the religious, and this brings a lot many other things in it. We really need to get back, go back and do, because there are so many things which is, I'm not sure how they are be impacting our the students that we serve, and I think we need more time on this.
Thank you. Are there any other trustees who have not spoken who would like to speak before I give the floor to Trustee Benjamin to close debate? Okay, Trustee Benjamin, you have opportunity to close debate on your request or your proposal with an amendment. After, I had already called for comment. Go ahead, Trustee Benjamin. You're on. Okay, there you go.
Let me make it very clear, I'm not against any religious groups. And as I said, we are talking about heritage, and we are talking about the government of Ontario and the list of, list that they have put out. So as per the research that I did, it recognizes many other heritage months, and that was what I read earlier, that this motion does not reflect that. And our focus as educators should be on developing future citizens in whom the culture of equity and inclusion, empathy and compassion should be second nature. Our focus should be on developing future citizens who look at another person, whatever the race, culture, ethnicity, religious background, gender identity, etc., as a fellow human being. Our focus should be on celebrating faith and cultures as part of our daily life. Our focus should be on encouraging our students to be curious, eager to learn more about the classmate who is different. Our focus should be on promoting the progressive policies that this board stands for, and as highlighted in the recent letter to the Education Minister that was sent by our chair. Our focus should be on promoting a global human outlook in an interdependent world. I do not believe that this motion does that. And therefore, I believe that the motion should be amended to include other cultural heritages. If we want a roadmap, we can follow the guide of the provincial government and adopt all celebratory months and days that are approved by the province. If we want to be thought leaders, then we should also doff our hats to where we have come from and not just where we are going. We should commemorate our indigenous antecedents and celebrate this country's native traditions. I must add a word of caution, though, because in celebrating any major religion or culture, we must understand that these major religions and cultures also have sects and denominations, and we must make sure that we highlight the minorities within as well. I cannot support the motion in its present form. I'm willing to support an amended motion, and I'm happy to propose these amendments. And I read the amendment before, and that's all, Chair.
Thank you. So I will call the vote. Could I just clarify, is this a required 2/3? No, I'm talking to the, no. I'm clarifying with the board recorders who are the best resource we have, but thank you. So it doesn't require 2/3. I'm going to call for a vote. This is on the amendment we're voting. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstain? The amendment fails. Now we go back to the original motion from Trustee DeCroop regarding recognition of heritage months. And to my knowledge, Trustee Noka was the only one who spoke to it. Trustee DeCroop, sorry. Trustee DeCroop is the only one who spoke to that. So we will now go back to where we were before the amendment was proposed to hear from any other trustees who would like to speak to Trustee DeCroop's motion. Trustee Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will support this motion based on these factors. I've seen many groups come here, and I believe that for me, when we want to talk about equity, inclusion, I believe that every student that we serve in this board must feel safe, supported, and included in the environment that they are in so that they can succeed. And I don't have much to say other than that, but I will support the motion.
Thank you. Trustee Kay McDonald.
Thank you. I'd like to publicly thank Trustee DeCroop for this motion. Its time has come, and I truly believe that education is a powerful weapon that can eradicate fear. In this great multicultural cosmopolitan that is Peel, it is vital for all its residents to live together with a firm resolve and commitment to equity and inclusion for all its residents. In a time of heightened nationalism, intolerance, and rapidity with which propaganda is disseminated in our society, it is imperative for us as an institution to do our part. We need to educate, educate, educate. We are living in pretty scary times, an era when by the tweet of a tweet, individuals seek to destroy, shame, spread untruths, twist facts, and individuals seek to try and humiliate or stir up controversy. I will gladly support any initiative that serves to promote a collective understanding of the diversity and cultures and religion in the Peel District School Board. So I'd gladly be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Trustee Marchant.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair. I too will be supporting this motion this evening. I do caution that and echo some of the concerns brought forth by Trustee Benjamin that we run the risk of excluding some groups, and I encourage any of those groups or anybody in Peel who feels not included by this motion going forward to either contact their school personnel, their trustee, myself, Mr. Krub, I think any of us, and we can always put forward something else towards any group that feels excluded. There's no way we can possibly name a month, a day, or even a year after every possible group out there. But taking this step forward to recognize some groups which are being particularly targeted right now with media, in the media and around the world, not just with words, but with actual violence. So at this point, I think I can stand behind this motion as written tonight. I would be happy to help my fellow trustee in terms of bringing forth another motion at a later time to recognize some of the other groups. We already do fly the Indigenous flag during the month of June, and I think there is some recognition in schools around Indigenous heritage in the curriculum, and hopefully the Truth and Reconciliation curriculum and the Indigenous curriculum that is supposed to have come forth already will come forth and better address that, not just for a month, but for the entire year, as we address the effects of colonialism on the Indigenous population in Canada. And many of the other groups here as well. And colonialism was not just a North American thing, it was a worldwide issue. So I think it's important that we take this step forward and continue to move forward with these. If we take some steps that aren't perhaps broad enough, that's okay. At least we're taking some steps to move in the right direction, and then we can build on that momentum to include other groups at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee B. McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is a sensitive issue, and I want to have a constructive conversation. I'm going to try to do the best of my words, but I want to apologize if I don't before I start. 15 years ago when I joined here as a trustee, the future that I want or we're looking for was created. I don't know if anyone's read it. I'd recommend it because it talks about inclusion. I hear this word inclusion, but it does not talk about exclusion. And at that time, we tackled faith. At that time, we became the board that's first to recognize faiths in our classroom, to support everyone. I had a lot of pushback at all levels, from staff to parents, etc. But I knew it was right because what did we do? We accepted all faiths. We didn't say just this one group or that group. We picked all of them. Out of that came our faith group leaders, which we have a group that meets together of all the faiths and talks to our board about how we are doing as a board with the faith groups. From that also came the calendar, which we now use in our board, and we do not hold meetings on critical bolded faith days because we don't want to exclude anyone from a meeting that we happen at the board or at the school level because their faith was a conflict. Everyone's faith, not just one. So this motion, we just had about Administration Appreciation Day, School Crossing Guard Day. If the motion was like that, I would support it if it said all faiths. And in our faith calendar happens to be 10. But this motion doesn't include everyone. I hear people talking about, well, contact me if you have people that are excluded. Excuse me? That's a conversation of exclusion, and that's what hate brings. Hate brings when people are excluded and not educated. So 15 years ago, when I started going door to door, I didn't hear anyone talking about faith. When the recent election, it was all about sex education. I go to a school meeting last week, they're asking me about math, more technology, they want more money. I've never been in my 15 years asked about putting my faith ahead of others. I have been asked, why is my faith not recognized like that one? And I says, it is. We do. So, I was just listening to a police officer when I was in the hospital on the weekends, I overheard a conversation. You don't talk about sex, politics, and religion. And so this motion crosses a big line, not about recognition, but then says in the last sentence, let's put it in the curriculum and teach. Oh my gosh, that is where the church and state, to use that expression, has been separated in this country. We are public, we accept all faiths. It's not appropriate to be supporting 4 out of 10. We all need to be educated. Everyone understands everyone's differences so we can get along better. And foster hatred is when you set privileges amongst others. So I can't support this motion. The motion, it puts people's faith above others. It puts the motions of the person giving the motion's faith over my faith. That is exclusion. That is disrespectful. That is what creates hatred in this world. And I ask my fellow trustees to say, you do it all or you don't do anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other trustees who have not spoken yet who would like to comment? Student Trustee Chankrian.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, Trustee Oris Nadanova and I have the opportunity to serve and represent a diverse population of students. Our constituents currently observe several Heritage Months, and with the recent events occurring in New Zealand, as well as countless hatred-incited crimes, attacks, and forms of cultural barriers found in our communities, it is with the best interest of our students that we wholeheartedly support the motion to support Islamic Heritage Month recognition in schools. We believe this will further unite our students and continue to foster a safe environment in which all students are a part of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Sohi.
Through you, Chair, ours is a multicultural, multilingual, and pluralistic society where we celebrate our strength in diversity, and we have to start somewhere. So, by putting my vote for this motion, I think we promote tolerance and inclusion in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other trustees who would like to speak who have not spoken? Trustee Davies.
This is a really tough topic, I think, for everyone here. But I always come from that education is never harmful, and that there's a lot of information and misinformation in the world. And if we can somehow educate, I don't see too much harm in this. Throughout history and history lessons, we're taught about different religions in a public school setting. And I think as long as we do that in this, I think it's time. I think our population and again, I'm proud of this board that it tackles issues like this. Proud of everybody on here, and however you vote on this, I'm proud of you taking the time to think about it, as I'm sure we all have. And again, no matter which way you vote, I'm proud of everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you. One more call. Anybody who has not spoken have the opportunity. I think everyone is, except for Chair and Vice Chair. And now we'll close debate with Trustee DeCrube.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to all of my colleagues who have expressed their support for this motion. I do want to explain a little bit about, being able to, how we can do things and work together a little bit better, just because I know so many of my colleagues are brand new trustees. So you can put other motions on the floor. You don't have to amend every motion that comes forward. And just because a motion doesn't include everything you want, doesn't mean that you can't support that and then add to it later and bring your own motion. So that's just some information out there. Supporting one group does not mean that you're not supporting other groups as well. And we tend to do things here step by step. So I'm encouraging my colleague or some of my colleagues, or maybe I'll even bring a motion to bring another motion to add on to this one. And some of the stuff that I've heard was around, this is about exclusion. This is not about exclusion. This is about inclusion. This is not about teaching religion. It's about ensuring that our diverse religious communities that are right here in Peel, who have been targeted by hate groups over and over again, this is about making sure that they feel included. And I just want to make something very clear. Voting against something because it doesn't include something else is still voting against it. So it doesn't make any sense to say, I'm not going to vote for these 4 heritage months because they don't include all the other different heritage months I would like it to include. If you're voting against this, you're voting against it. And, I'm really thankful to my colleagues who have decided to come on board and support this motion. I know the community will appreciate it. I know a lot of our staff will also appreciate it if it passes. And then we can build on that. Thank you.
Thank you. So a recorded vote has been called for. So I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion before us now, please stand and stay standing until your name has been called.
Trustees DeCrube, Marchant, Sohi, Green, Cameron, Lawton, Davies, McDonald, Crocker.
Thank you. All those opposed, please stand.
Trustee McDonald.
Those abstaining, please stand.
Trustee Benjamin.
And
Student trustee.
did you want to vote? Did Trustee Jonkrian vote?
I didn't get her.
Okay, okay.
She was standing? Okay.
Thank you. So could you tell us the vote count, please?
9 votes in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstained, and 1 non-binding student trustee vote in favor.
Thank you. Therefore, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Item 9.7 is an addition we made to the agenda prior to approving the agenda. This item is the update regarding the naming of a new school. Will you put this item on the floor, Trustee Sohi? Thank you. Will you second it, Trustee Davies? Thank you. Communications Director Pereira, would you like to add anything to this update request?
Through you, Chair Cameron. No, I think it's pretty well laid out in front of you. The request did come from the students in a grade 5 class at James Grieve Public School, and they were very thoughtful in their approach. They put in a lot of rationale, asking for it, honoring his legacy as someone who served Canada, so that's primarily the reason for their request. We did check it with the curator of the Canadian Sikh Museum, and he does he did confirm that the exhibit at the museum does say private Bukam Singh.
Thank you. So this has been moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions from any trustees? Trustee Crocker?
Thank you, Chair. I'm really happy to support this. I'm heartened that we got a response from the students, and I appreciate your comments, Director Pereira. I find grade 5 students generally to be a breath of fresh air and a joy to talk to. I'm the grandson of Private Roy Crocker, a soldier of the Great War. He went into the war as a private, and he left the war as a private. Very fortunate to be alive. I take great pride in the fact that the Peel Board would name a school, in this instance, after a man who was a private. I understand Trustee Brad McDonald's concerns about the word private in a public school name. I really get that, and that kind of bothers me a bit too. I hope there's no misunderstanding about it. But there are so many schools and other public institutions, street names, cities, provinces, and countries named after the great men in history. And so here we have somebody who breaks the mold. And we're going to name a school after him right here in Peel. So I say well done. Let's go for that.
Thank you. Trustee Davies?
Again, I am absolutely for the name. I just can't put the word private and school in the same sentence. I just think that there might cause some confusion there. And so Bukam Singh Public School, I think, is wonderful, fantastic. I just sort of wanted to leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee K. McDonald?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I think we always talk about getting voices from students. And it was students that raised this issue. And I think what better way to model that we value student voice by listening to our students when they speak. We speak about from the community. If the community is asking for something and we understand that he was indeed a private, I think, again, what better way, instead of saying to a community, this is what we're doing to you, than listening to the voice of community. And one of the beauty, I think when you look at the beauty of the English language with all its nuances, I think it will be reflected in naming this private. Because when I think that we wouldn't want to name a school private Bukam Singh, and private is a title. I'm really happy that people like Nelson Mandela didn't have private in the last name, because then we wouldn't have a Nelson, like Nelson Private School if that was his last name, right? But I think, all seriousness aside, all joking aside, sorry, I think that for us as a board not to listen to the community and not listen to our students, we'll be missing a great opportunity to show people that their voices do matter. Thank you. So I will be supporting the amendment, the recommendation.
Thank you. Trustee Marchant?
Yes, again, the fact that this comes from the students, I think we need to support it. I trust our communications department to be able to use, PVT when they put the name up on the school. So, the word private doesn't have to be up there on the name of the side of the school. The PVT as a short form, I think, would be pretty clear. We don't necessarily spell out corporal or general or any of those terms when we use honorariums or honorary titles. So I'm certainly in support of this one. I'm sure our communications department and the wonderful people we have there will figure out that problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee B. McDonald?
Thank you. Trustee Marchant kind of ahead of me. I would either, other than maybe we promote him to sergeant, which maybe we could do that posthumously, but I would support if we put PTE, because then we don't see the word private and people will go, what does that mean? And then they understand that it's an Army-related term and not a term related to education that could be misconstrued, which is, again, against my fabric. So if we did PTE, I would support this motion. I don't know if that has to be a friendly amendment or it has to be something.
I don't think that would be friendly. That changes the context of the original
Well, let's change the wording of the motion to put, instead of private, PTE.
We could hear from Director. Could you? Yes, go ahead.
I'm wondering, can you hear me now?
No.
It's on.
We can hear you anyways.
Yeah, I'll just speak really loudly. Okay, here we go. I'm wondering if we can approve it as private with full spelling, but when we post it as a sign on the school, if we can abbreviate it, or if it has to be an identical match. I'm looking to Controller Wright. Sorry, Controller Wright. Or Associate Director Gill.
So the
Has
question
that been
is,
done before?
Yeah.
We'll save money on letters.
Yes, Associate Director Gill.
Through you, Chair, I think for now, I think the board need to consider what the recommendation is in front of the board. And then if we can change that to PVT, then staff can come back at that point.
So is that answering that I do a friendly amendment to change it to PTE?
Okay. You can present a friendly amendment, but it changes the context of the title of the school, which doesn't make it sound that friendly to me, but.
Well, friendly is abbreviating a word, so I consider that friendly. And if if you don't call it friendly, I'll put amendment on the floor.
We'll ask our board. Go ahead. If you activate that button, it's just we're going to hear an answer here first.
You can put a motion on the floor.
Sorry?
You can put a motion on the floor to amend it to whatever you want.
All right. Point of order?
Yeah, it's not a motion from the floor, so it can't be a friendly amendment to a motion from the floor, so we need to put a motion.
So I will put a motion on the floor that we change the word private to PTE. I think that would make me support this motion, and I appreciate the kids who comes out with it, but they don't have this, they don't understand the difference of private education and public, and I think that's very important. And if they knew that, and you told them about it, then they would say, yeah, can we make PTE? But I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I do appreciate the version. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Yes? Just a second. We have, the director would like to say something. Go ahead.
Through you, Chair, I believe the abbreviation for private is PVT. It's either. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, is there a seconder for Trustee B. McDonald's motion on the floor to change the title of the school to PTE or PVTE? Bukum Singh Public School. Okay, so the request in the motion is for PTE. And there is a seconder.
It's PVT. Yes. Thank you.
PVT you want? Right, PVT. Okay, so but we're going to work with the motion as requested by the mover. So you tell me now what letters you want, sir. Let's say that out loud. Activate your button, please. Thank you.
So I'm taking direction from Carla and some other people here that they say P, V is in Victor, T
okay.
is Tango.
Okay, so the
but I've got a
motion.
shaking head over by Robert Crocker.
Let's get the motion on the floor for discussion.
That's my motion.
We have a motion on the floor from Trustee B. McDonald. It is seconded by Trustee Davies. The question is, can we change the name to PVT, Bukum Singh Public School? And so now we have a motion on the floor for discussion. Who would like to have a say on this? We just activate your button. We have Trustee DeCruz.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm okay with supporting the abbreviation to help some of my colleagues with the concern around private and public education. By listening to this, I think with the actual title of the abbreviations, I think the difference is different countries use different things versus PTE or PVT. I think maybe US and Canada, I'm not sure, but I guess Carla, Director Pereira would know best. So I'm okay with the PVT. So I'm supportive of this, and let's get this show on the road.
Okay. We're speaking to this new motion. Trustee Green.
Yeah, so I have no problem supporting the amendment. There's only one thing I would like to see is that because students was consulted and it's their voice, their school, they're the ones gonna be in the school, that there's a communication plan and that we go back to the school and we have a communication with those students around the decision, but I have no problem. I would just like to see that those students understand that their voice are heard and are valued, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Sohi.
I strongly recommend that we need private in the name because while talking to a lot of community, because this the specific school is coming in Ward 10, and I have been contacted by different media and different community groups, and adding the private in front of the name, it actually tells like who this person was and how this person contributed to the Canadian history. I again support and I really appreciate the students of James Grieve grade 5 class who brought this up to our attention, and their voices being heard, and we really want to make sure that we go back and talk to them that how we abbreviated it now instead of having the full. So that's a piece that I really wanted to address, that we need to make sure that those students being communicated properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Marchant.
No, sorry.
You're on.
No. No, I'm good, sir.
Oh, hit it again, please. You don't want to speak? No, thank you. Trustee Benjamin.
Trustee, I will support the motion, whether it's PRIVATE or PTE, but I still feel PRIVATE is better because that'll be a teachable moment for kids who ask, why are you using private before Buckham Singh Public School? And then it can generate the conversation on it's a rank in the Army and, create an interest in the Army for young kids. So, but it doesn't matter to me. I will support the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Crocker.
Thank you, Chair. I find myself wishing I'd brought my grandfather's war medals with me because in the First War, all the Canadian, all the British Empire soldiers got their name actually around the rim of the medal. And so I'm not, memory says it says PTE on there. Certainly the DND website that I'm looking at right now says PTE, Papa Tango Echo, in NATO parlance. So if we're going to go short form, I would contend that it has to be PTE, Papa Tango Echo. Thank you, Chair.
So let's be clear, though. We started with a motion from Trustee McDonald, which was asking for PVT. So we're with that motion. That's what we've been listening to and talking about and referring to. Trustee Davies.
I was just going to say PTE is correct, and I think that's what Mr. McDonald was trying to say. And he did ask for help from the audience, and the audience misled him, so therefore I think this should be PTE, because that's what he meant to say. And again, saying PTE, when the question is asked, oh, it is a military thing, and I think that's really how we have to honor this gentleman as a Canadian soldier, and I think the PTE will absolutely lead us right there, and I think that's why it should be that way. Thank you.
So let me clarify, before we call on Trustee McDonald to close, but can you clarify what it is you definitively want now as letters for consideration as a vote? Because there are cell phones, there are messages, but we need a conclusive lettering, sir.
Yeah. So I originally wanted
Sorry, Brett.
I originally wanted PTE. I went up there and got PVT, right? But subsequent looking at the Government of Canada website, looking at medals engraved, great thing we have technology, we can do this. The right thing is P Tango Echo.
Okay. So what we're listening to from henceforward now on this motion is the request to change the name to PTE Buckham Singh Public School, and Trustee McDonald, you have the opportunity to close, sir.
I think everyone's had a good conversation around this, and I just want to thank the trustees of entertaining this change. I think it really helps. Now kids will ask, what does PTE stand for? Great dialogue, and also it eliminates that whole private public conflict that I am just torn at from a philosophical perspective. Thank you.
Okay. So we will call the vote. The vote is on, listen, I'm asking if you are voting for the name to be changed to PTE, Buckham Singh Public School. Please raise your hand. Okay, it carries. There's one opposed. And it carries. So we have a new name for PTE Buckham Singh Public School. Thank you, everyone. 9.8 is the waived notice from Trustee DeCrube with respect to the letter writing. Oh, sorry. We did. That was a motion. That was your motion for the name change. Yes. We're at PTE. Please make the signs now. Now we're at 9.8, which is the waived notice from Trustee DeCrube. And we will ask Trustee DeCrube to open debate. I'm sorry. There you go.
I think. Sorry, I actually gave in, I handed in my, my actual, so I'm just going to read it. So be it resolved that the Peel District School Board writes a letter to the Minister of Training, Colleges and Universities and the Premier of Ontario to express concern about OSAP changes. Be it further resolved that the Peel District School Board writes a letter to the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services and the Premier of Ontario to express concern regarding the recent changes to the Ontario Autism Program. I think the motion is pretty self-explanatory. There's been a lot of changes that we've heard about in the news that have been very concerning to families, to parents, to our neighbors, to our students, and it's you know, I understand that things have been a moving target, and I think that they would likely will be continue to be a moving target, but the changes are concerning, and I'd like to echo some of the other boards who have sent in those letters to express those concerns.
Thank you. Trustee Marchant.
Yes, well, in theory, I support writing the government to express our concerns. I know that the budget is done, written in a can, being ready to be released on Thursday. I am conscious of the amount of work our staff have tasked doing between now and then on the current changes that are already there. And when we write these letters to the ministers, they have staff who will spend time having to read these letters and respond to them. When I know that we're probably going to have more concerns and perhaps graver concerns come Friday. So I think any letters we write today are going to be meaningless in terms of actually affecting decisions. We'll be able to put a lot more information and make our letters a lot more targeted and meaningful if we wait till after the budget is released, which we know it is done. There is absolutely nothing we could do today to change anything in that budget. It's sealed, it's printed, it's ready to hit the floor. So I think our staff have better things to do. I think the ministry and government staffs have better things to do. That would be hours and hours and hours of people writing these letters. These aren't things that are just whipped off in 10 minutes on one email. They get bounced back and forth between departments. They get reviewed by directors, by senior directors, and then sent off to the ministry where, again, that works in reverse. So people get them, they get responded and everything else. I just think it's a colossal waste of time and money at a time when we need to focus our time and money on more productive things. Absolutely, once the budget comes out, we can get together as trustees and by email and suggest doing a letter outside of that or coming back and doing a fulsome response to the budget when we know what's actually in it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Green.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm always in support of writing letters to the government to voice our opinion and let the government know where we stand in terms of decision that they're making that will affect our students. However, at this point, I can tell you that being this board representative at the OPSPR table, we have what we call a position paper that already been presented to the government, outline all of these concerns, and yet still we got a blanket letter, and the letter stated that we are listening, we're hearing, we're consulting. We want to work with you. As soon as we have our information in, we will reach out to you. And they accept the letter as part of their consultation, the position paper. Now, as the budget is coming down less than a day, right now, because OPSRA already put a position paper, and at this point, maybe later on down the road, if we want to address this again, because a school board from across the province is stocking up letters and letters. I've never seen more letters written to any government. Brad keeps saying 15 years. This year is 16. So in my 16 years being at this table, I've never seen more letters written to the government, and there's no budge. I'll talk later on in my report about what transpired yesterday to let you know. So at this point, I have to say to my colleagues, I'm not going to support this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Davies?
I just, again, want to state that cutting education is not a vote getter for Mr. Ford or his government. All these letters I see, they all say the exact same thing. And again, he strongly feels he was elected to do something. He believes he's in a financial crisis, and his perception of his reality is his reality. And I don't think writing a couple more letters to further alienate education from him is a good idea at this point. And again, to what Mr. Marchman said, absolutely. Let's wait till the budget comes out and know more about what we're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Crocker?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. At the risk of making more work for our communications department, I support the motion. The government doesn't read their mail. They do weigh their mail. The more they get, the better.
Thank you. Trustee K. McDonald?
So Trustee Crocker gave me something to think about, because I was just going to say, after listening to people, why bother give staff extra work if it's not going to achieve anything? Because the budget is out, and, is it just going to go in a pile of junk mail? So, we're using staff time to do a probably futile exercise. That's my only concern.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions from trustees? Seeing none. Trustee DeCrube, you may close. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I completely agree with Trustee Crocker. The government may not always read their mail, not just this government, but every government, but they absolutely weigh it. I think some of my colleagues had mentioned that they'd never seen this many letters written in such short period of time. I absolutely agree. I've never seen this many letters written by this many people in a short period of time. But the reality is those letters are advocacy letters. Those letters are because we're concerned about what the government is doing. We're adding our voice to other voices from across the province. One letter from OPSPA is not enough. A letter from every school board in Ontario and a letter from every school board trustee in Ontario, that's more like it. The government absolutely does weigh their mail. Every government does. And it's always better to add more voices to the table advocate as much as we can until the very last minute.
Okay. Thank you. So you had asked for a recorded vote? You didn't? I thought I heard you say all of my motions would be recorded vote requests.
She has to ask each individual.
Okay. No, before we start debate, you need to say it specifically. So we'll go with the books, how it works, and we're still going to see the vote and how it rolls out here. So we'll call the vote. All of those in favor of this notice from Trustee DeCrube to write these two letters, this requires a 2/3 majority. Please stand. Oh, it's not a 2/3? I thought a waived notice.
The 2/3 is to waive it.
Oh, right, okay. This is a simple majority. All those in favor of this motion by Trustee DeCrube to write the two letters, please stand. In favor. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. And abstain. 2 abstain. Did you get that? Are you okay? Okay. Thank you. So the motion fails. Moving to item 12 on the agenda, which is reports from Ontario Public School Boards Association. 12.1 is the OPSPA Connects report from March 25th. 12.2 is the OPSPA Connects report from April 1st. 12.3 is the OPSPA Connects report from April 8th. Trustee Sohi, will you move these? Trustee Green, second. Sure. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 13 is communications for action or receipt. We can take all of these together. There are 8 communications for us to receive at this time. 13.1 is a copy of the letter to the Minister of Education and Minister of Training, Colleges and Universities from the Chair of the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board. 13.2 is a copy of the letter to the Minister of Education from the Chair of the Toronto District School Board. 13.3 is a copy of the letter to the Minister of Education from the Chair of Hastings and Prince Edward District School Board. 13.4 is a copy of the letter to the Minister of Education and the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services from the Simcoe County District School Board Special Education Advisory Committee. 13.5 is a letter to the Minister of Education and the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services from the Chair of the Simcoe County District School Board. 13.6 is a copy of the letter to the Minister of Education from the Chair of the Limestone District School Board regarding recent announcements of changes to ministry funding. 13.7 is a copy of a letter to the Minister of Education from the Chair of the Peel District School Board regarding recent announcements of changes to ministry funding. And 13.8 is a copy of the letter to the Minister of Education from the Chair of the Halton District School Board regarding recent announcements of changes to ministry funding. Trustee Crocker, will you move receipt of these? Sure. Thank you. Trustee DeCruz, will you second this? Thanks. And are there any questions or comments from trustees? All in favor? Carried. Item 14 is a response of administration to former questions. Item 14.1 is a response to questions asked by Trustee Marchant at the March 25th, 2019 board meeting regarding community coaching. The response is here for our receipt. Trustee Marchant, will you move this to the floor? Thank you. Trustee B. McDonald, will you second this? Thank you. And are there any questions or comments from trustees on this response? Okay. All those in favor of the receipt of this item? Opposed? Carries. Item 15, are there any reports from trustee representatives on councils or associations? Trustee Green?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just wanted to give you, my colleagues, a brief overview, an update of what transpired yesterday at the Ontario School Board Association Day of Advocacy. With the various different MPs at Queen's Park. That mean invitation had gone to every single MPs that, whether they were from PC Party, the New Democrat, or the Liberal, or the Green Party. And we had over 101 had replied that they would attend. And yesterday we had about, I would say a good between 70, 71 or so attended. Most of those were in the room. There was Democrat attended. Now, we had gone in with a very clear message to the, well, let me say this first. The Premier did respond and say that he was not going to be attending, and that he was not sending any staffer. He said he was leaving it up to the Minister of Education, and yes, she did attend. Now, we had a clear message going in yesterday, and all the executive, including the president of the National School Board Association was there. We had student trustees who was in attendance, making our voice heard, and all trustees had some planned question around was to structure to ask these MPPs and also to make our voice heard And the message to the government is that the direction that they were going in is not about to help student. It was more about going to hurt our student. We had message in terms of class size. We had message in terms of the funding cuts. We had messaging around the support for students with autism and special needs. And I won't go into all the detail of the various different message. Each trustee had a group of planned question to ask these individuals. I can tell you the NDPers was very receptive and want to take our motion forward. Actually, earlier in the day in legislature, there was some question. They were honoring the minister around these cuts and the support for kids. One former trustee was now an NDP MPP from the Toronto area, hammered the minister around his specialized programs such as the iSkill Major program, the Hearts program, and so forth. And basically, we're hearing the same message. I've heard the minister speak on 6 occasions, and the message is the same thing. Nothing has changed. Our priority is student success, but in everything that they're doing, we don't see how what they're doing is going to support students. So needless to say, the minister came with the same message again. She spent 5 minutes and she made her statement, and that was it. We had former Premier Kathleen Wynne spoke. She toed the line, but the NDP credit that was there actually made our position very, very strong on our behalf, and they agreed that they will be taking our message forward, and they are not going to let up. And they intend to, the statement is that we support you. We know that you are the only elected official in the province of Ontario that represent both parents and children, and therefore we want to work with you. And we're asking this government to work with you. We see you as valuable partners, and therefore partners work together. And the critic also made it clear that the consultation that they're doing, that they need to just consult the experts. And she went on to say, all those experts are right in this room. So they needs to be consulted. So needless to say, I find when I personally went over to the PC MPPs, they were more like running away. Because as soon as the conversation started, they would say, oh, we hear you, we want to work with you, here's my card, give me a call. One went as far as said to me, call me, we can go for coffee. Because I don't think this is the right setting. But I'm saying, yes, this is the right setting. This is the reason why we came here. We could have been home, or I could have been at HR, but I'm down here to make our voice heard. I can tell you that all the trustees that was there, we represent all the voice across this province, and we made our position known and very clear. Let's hope that, I don't think, anyone is listening, but that those that have the power, and I'll tell you this, and I'll wrap it up. One particular MPP said to me, Mr. Green, tell me something. Do you have authority over your children at home? And I said, yes, as long as they're in my home. He said, in your school board, do you give the principal authority over the children? And I said, well, they are the admin in the school, and they should have, oversight over those kids to make sure that they're safe. And he said, well, people give us a mandate, and we have authority over this province, and we're going to do what we think is best. And that said it all for me. So, needless to say, but I can say, I speak when I was there yesterday. I took our voice and our concern forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was item 15. Item 16, are there any comments or questions from board members? And I'll start with this end, with Trustee Chongkrian. Would you like to, I know you want to say something because we talked. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, I just wanted to make a comment. On Monday, April 4th, I had the opportunity to co-host the 2019 Earth Week Conference with Harold Brathwaite's Human Impact Team right here at the board office. Peel students came together to learn about environmental stewardship and how to make the world more eco-friendly. I wanted to take the time to thank Director Joshua, Ms. Tara Rigoda, Ms. Audrey Crasto, who's here in the audience today, and Ms. Stacy Wilson in helping with the facilitation of this event. I also wanted to make another comment. So Matthew Jacobson once said, "Behind every young child who believes in themselves is a parent who believed in them first." And with that being said, I want to thank you, Mom and Dad. My mom's right there in the audience, just wave. Thank you for always supporting everything that I do and for always inspiring me to be my best self. Today, I wanted to show you the wonderful things I have the privilege to do at the board and wanted you to see what your love and support has allowed me to achieve. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. And working our way around, Trustee Crocker, anything? Trustee Benjamin? Trustee K. McDonald? Mm-hmm.
So, as only Wendy could do, when I spoke earlier to section 6.2, I mentioned the principals and vice principals, because that's what I thought the day was about. And I was in one of my schools today, earlier on, that received an award, and I saw the big sign. It said the best principal, the best vice principal ever, and the best principal ever. But actually, May 24th is in recognition for our administrative assistants, office managers, office assistants, and other QP 1628 and ASG staff. And I also wanted to list all those individuals that play a crucial role in the education of our children, and that their roles are very valuable. Each of them collectively work with our teachers and administrators to make sure that our students are the best that they can be. So I'd like to thank them for that. I also wanted to mention 3 events. So for those who don't know, that ex-trustee Harriet Singh got married on the weekend. So that was quite an exciting event, and I wish him all the best, as he's now a husband. Also, not last weekend, the weekend before, we had the PIC, which is the Parent Involvement Committee, and they had a great event at Louise Arbor Secondary School. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to the staff, the students, and the PIC team. The event was, it wasn't as, I guess the weather kind of played a role in the attendance, but the information was amazing. And all the participants at that event came away with a lot of information, and they really enjoyed the event. And also, I had the pleasure, and also we were well represented by our very own superintendent, Dr. Gail Solomon Henry, at the American Education Research Association annual conference. And there were about 19,000 attendees. And I was very honored, as asked to participate and speak a bit also about the work that we're doing in Peel for marginalized students. And all I can say is that Dr. Gail Solomon Henry, you did us proud on the panel. So thank you very much. And yes, it was, and all across America, our name is out there now. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
And the good work that we're doing. Thank you.
Trustee Davies. Vice Chair Lawton. Over to this side, Trustee DeCruz, Trustee Marchant, Trustee B. McDonald, Trustee Sohi. Yes.
Last month on March 27th, Sandalwood Heights held the Girls Leadership Program, a conference where more than 500 plus girls from the feeder schools came, and there were different workshops. And I had the privilege to conduct the leadership workshop as well. And it was so interesting to see the girls from the feeder schools interacting with the high school, and it's a great opportunity for them to hear from the great speakers that had the experience in a different field. So I would love to see more of these interactive engagements that brings these girls and confidence to our schools, and also empowering and inspiring these girls. At the same, last week, in the same superintendency, I would say, the Ross Tribe Public School had a 5210 health fair. Myself and the Superintendent Michael Lowe, we attended it, and it was more than 250 plus families who came to that fair, and it was very interactive to see their engagement, and it's a great way to bring the community in the schools. And I would say that if we can have more of these into the different schools, it will create a better environment and a welcoming environment in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple things. First, I just want to remind my colleagues that this coming Saturday, because I was hoping that Kathy would have brought this forward, is the Ontario School Board Association Central West Region, which this board is a part of Central West Region, and Kathy and Susan Benjamin represent our board there at that level. It's our meeting starting at 8. It's in Waterloo, Kitchener-Waterloo, this coming Saturday. If you look at your Oxford Connect, you should be there. I'm open to see as much trustees as possible coming out to that one. This is where you can really network and put your idea forward that goes from there to the larger Ontario School Board Association. This is where a lot of the grassroots ideas are formed. So please come out and support that. And secondly, based on what is happening in the various different cuts that is in place and the impact that this will have on student and the service that we delivered, would like to ask staff if they have like a brief PowerPoint or something. I know Associate Director Gill has shared some figures, and if I could have something on that, because with the letter that we sent to the minister recently, it's going to be my walking tool. I'm trying to put 2 town hall meetings together, one in West Brampton in my area, and then one in Central Brampton, to basically, because a lot of family and parents do not know the impact that this will have, and I want to take that message on the road. I said it, and I meant it. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to be organizing these town halls. I'm going to be applying for the permits to use certain schools to deliver my message. And I'm going to be asking Brampton Guardian, I'm going to ask students to take letters home, because I want to make sure that parents are equipped with the information, because I have been getting emails already from parents are asking me, with all these cuts that are happening, what are you going to be doing about it? And I'm saying, hold up a minute here. So I want to make sure that the message is clear, because at the end of the day, once the impact start, it's going to come back to this board. I want to make sure that my community that I represent is well educated, that it's not this board. We just have to do what we are told to do, or what we are mandated to do. And I'm going to ask the director if on those dates staff are available, that maybe can provide some more clarity. Could come out, so just in case, I'd welcome it. If not, I will do my best to bring the information and update my community. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 17 is public question period. Are there any questions from the public? Yes, welcome. Can you activate that, Mike? There you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Mike Bettial. I am the president of OSSTF District 19, representing secondary school teachers, occasional teachers, and PSSPs. And depending on who you talk to in the government, I'm either a union boss or a thug. Although I went to school with a lot of thugs, I didn't think I was one of them. I was coming here to ask because at the last meeting when this Board of Trustees first took notice of the announcements that had been made around cuts, I heard several trustees talk about trying to start some sort of a campaign to deal with this. I know you don't want to write letters, and I completely get that because I also believe that letters are pointless. They're not listening to them. But I think what I heard Trustee Green talk about sounds like a campaign. And I was wondering whether the rest of the trustees had turned their minds to something like that in terms of trying to organize things. Because in my opinion, you're not going to get anywhere until you actually take this to the parents who are the ones who vote. So question number one is, have you turned your mind as a group to a campaign? And secondly, when can we anticipate to hear some sort of a report about it?
Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, the last meeting we had, Trustee Sohi actually made a comment in the comment section about maybe the possibility of a campaign that might include something like town hall meetings. And so that was something left for trustees to think about. Clearly, you've already heard Trustee Green will act on it perhaps for him and in his area. But that is something that our board still has to, our Board of Trustees still has to talk about in terms of a concentrated campaign and what that would look like. We have talked and compared a little bit to the Fix the Formula campaign, which was successful for our board. But one of the things I've been saying to people who have been talking to me about that, including parents and teachers and union reps and federation reps, is that the difference is that when we did the Fix the Formula campaign, we had all the numbers. We knew everything we needed to know. We had comparatives from across the province. And we don't have that yet. Of course, in a couple of days, we're going to have a budget, and then sometime between then and the end of April, we're going to get GSN and GSNs. And so it's at that point that we're going to know exactly where we're at. It does feel, honestly, a little premature to get out there before knowing those actual numbers in case they're not as bad as we thought they were going to be. If they're worse or as bad as we thought they were going to be, then at that point, the answer to your second question is that would be when. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Well, you're not going to get two different opinions than that and mine. My name is Richard Ingram, so I don't know how to properly address everybody, so I apologize in advance. I got the letter on March 26th from the board talking about the Peel Board of Trustees sends a letter to Minister of Education to share concerns about recent announcements. I want you to know how I approach this discussion. I went through the public education system in Brampton, Central Peel. I have 4 kids, going through the public education system, fan of the public education system, but I'm also in sales. So I'm going to try to sell you on something because I don't like the tone of this email that I got. I was very disappointed in this email, to be honest with you. I call it a moral panic email. I've gotten a few from the board already around sex ed. I got this one around cuts. And my message is, you don't operate in a bubble. We just had an election, and there was a clear voice there in the election. And, again, being in sales, I want to try to sell you on why you want to approach cuts with an optimistic mindset. Because Just like I wouldn't argue against climate change and environmental pollution, and we should make sacrifices today for the next generation. Who here would say that leaving a dirty planet to the next generation is a moral sin? I think almost everybody would put their hand up. I'm here to say leaving an indebted planet to the next generation is a moral sin. And you don't operate in a bubble, okay? The cost of our previous sins around fiscal pollution is $12 billion a year. Who here would like full autism funding? I would. Who here would like free university education? I would. Who here would like free daycare for kids? I would. We already pay for it, we just don't get the benefits of it, because we spend $12 billion a year for interest costs, just to pay the interest on that. And I get an email like this, where basically we approach with no good faith at all from the board, in my opinion.
Sir, could
Yep.
we hear a question? It's question period. So
Yeah.
we've listened to some framework. I
Okay,
think,
so
and-
I'm going to give you two examples of what I saw in there. So one was class sizes. So you're, again, moral panic around class sizes going from 28 to 30-something, whatever. My question to the board would be, you know, I have an 18-year-old daughter right now, just finished grade 12 last year, first year university. You know, what kind of moral panic did she have when she went from 28 class size in grade 12 to 150 in first year university? We're not preparing our kids for university by keeping them in small class sizes in grade 12 at the cost of future generation in terms of interest costs. So again, my question to the board, I have two questions. One is, are you preparing grade 12 students for university when you know university is 150 kids per class by protecting them in you know, classrooms of 28?
Okay, so the answer to the question might be that those children who go off to university or college are that year older, and they're presumably that much more mature. We're sending them off on their own. I sent my 17-year-old on a bus 4 hours away to go to university, and life in university was very different than what her classes were in high school here in this board. Was she ready? I think so, because she made it. But sir, these are individual examples. My child, your child. I think your question is rhetorical in that we probably have our own answers to those things.
Yeah.
And clearly what you're sharing is a disagreement with some of our positions on this. I accept that. That is, we call that respectful disagreement. I think our board does a wonderful job at, I think really what we should measure is how well do we do with the sizes we currently have right now, as opposed to, soon we'll be able to measure how well did we do with those imposed increased size classes. So it's not really something I could point out with a factual debate generally until we see this in operation.
Okay, so you're right, most of this is more of a statement than questions, but my second comment is around the math scores. You know, I wish I got an email, a moral panic email around math scores.
So, Mr. Chair, point of order. It's a question period. I'm going to ask you, no disrespect, but I'm going to ask you that we follow our bylaw and our procedure.
So we're waiting for the question.
Sure, the question around math scores, if you want to play procedures, the question around math scores is, you know, we've had failing math scores for years. We've tried everything, and in the, you know, again, in the moral panic email, we see, you know, basically doubling down on, you know, exploratory math, and we really hope you keep this. Are you approaching this in good faith? That's my question.
So we are moving forward with the data that we have from every school and every child, and we're trying to work with that in the best way we can. We would disagree, sir, that increasing those class sizes the way they're going to be imposed is the answer to helping our children with their math scores. And so we're going to move in a different direction, and I'm sorry that we have a disagreement, but I respect your
I appreciate your time. Just remember, you don't operate in a bubble.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Mrs. Soplet. Welcome.
Thank you, and through you, I'm almost going to say the MADAM word, but I won't. we don't operate in a bubble. And the bubble the larger bubble to the Peel District School Board is Peel Region and the current municipal review that is under construction. So last night at the City of Mississauga, there was a public meeting, and the question that I raised was whether the municipal review had cast any consideration as a single-tier municipality, however it is iterated, will that mean that there will be a redistricting of policing and school boards?
Right.
And what that impact would be?
So I've heard that question before. It may have been from you outside of this forum. Our answer to that is we don't know yet. All of this is in discussion at a municipality's boardroom, and we won't know what the province feels about that and what they think about it and how they might react to that. Only at that point will we start to have those concrete discussions about how this would impact us.
Okay, and so just in follow-up, the response of the Chief Administrative Officer of the municipality of Mississauga was that there was no reference made to the school boards in the process that they are going through. And so the comment that I made was that this obsession with secession is blind to schools and policing, and if municipalities want safe neighborhoods and vibrant schools, then our residents need to pay attention.
Thank you.
I have an opinion, I'll pass it in.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the public? Thank you, everyone. Item 19 is the adoption of the in-committee reports. Vice Chair Lawton. Oh, sorry. Oh, so we can't finish that part here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we still have a meeting to complete in there, so we can't actually complete this last section. That's correct. So, trustees, we're back in our meeting room. Can we go there as quickly as possible to get that meeting done? And then we'll finish this one. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll be back at a regular meeting of the board on Tuesday, April 23rd. Thank you.